Hello and welcome to the Cheese Room. We've had a slight last-minute change in formation. So we've got me presenting and HD's along here, and we've got a few other people coming along once they've done parenting. But yeah, it's all good. We're the best ones anyway, aren't we?
And we are basically Toby and Yan. You know, we keep the whole side together, and everyone else is just there for show. There'd be nothing without us. That's how it is, right?
And we said let's get the teachers sorting it. So the teachers are running the bit. But yeah, like my two are old enough; they sort themselves out. So I've stopped parenting about 5 years ago. So yeah, it's all good.
Well, congratulations.
I remember those days.
Now you have the 800 kids at your school that you have to look after, right?
Instead, yeah, and the parents yeah. But yeah, no, it's great. Welcome along to everybody that's here. I can see Kerry's already in the chat, and Adrian. Yeah, we've got a lovely show to sort of do because we've got a victory to talk about. And although we had a victory 2 weeks ago, it was slightly dulled a bit with the Leicester game in the middle. So I'm quite looking forward to this. So yeah, usual housekeeping bits and pieces, please, if you can hit the like, that would be fantastic, and subscribe if you haven't already. And like I said, lots of comments for us, please. We always like reading them. And yeah, let's start the show, as it were. So best place to start, I think, is with Kane's tifo. So HG, okay. If you've got the slide for me.
I can do that for you. There you go.
There we are. So and on true form, I've got them here. So me and Jack, we've got our white one, and we've got our blue one. So me and Jack were the H. We were the bar across the H. We'd not done it before. We'd always been north lower and faced them, so it was quite nice to actually be in there holding them this time. But it was strange. The whole row in front of us didn't turn up in time, so they didn't even lift theirs. But you can't really tell because I think the join underneath the H looks like it's supposed to be there. But I had lots of people sending me pictures from north lower and from west and east, saying it did look really good. I think on Friday, or was it Saturday, when they released a picture of what it was going to look like, there was quite a lot of people who were slightly underwhelmed, to which I think I can have some sympathy for. Watching the pictures from out in Milan where it felt like the whole San Siro were holding like red plastic things that they were kind of shaking. The club did something. It was one of those where they can't do right for doing wrong. It's just, it looked great on the day. I think, it is what it is, and if they hadn't done it, no one would have even mentioned anything, would they? So, but yeah, what did you make of it? Because you've got quite a lot of experience of tifos, haven't you, over there in Austria and Germany? We're trying to catch up.
Experience, as in the fact I like the drop-down ones that you seem to see at Dortmund or wherever. Not this. Let's all hold up a placard and hope it creates a shape. Hello,
Hi.
Gibbo.
Sorry,
Good
I'm late.
you,
Don't worry, we've only just got going. We're talking about the tifo, Matt.
Oh yeah. So
Eric Dyer's just showed up to make the perfect back three.
Yeah.
Toby and Jan have already started it.
So what are we saying about it?
I just explained about how some people were slightly underwhelmed when they released the picture, but HG was about to talk about his kind of view on it because he's usually had views on tifos in the past.
What I do like about it, go on. Sorry, what I do like about it is the fact that it seemed to be white on blue. I like that part.
Simple, yeah.
I'm surprised that it doesn't say Kane.
Me too.
Like the fact that he's not the only Harry to have played for Tottenham. Like, or why not just have a big H? Since apparently that's what everyone calls him.
Yeah.
But I like I think the A, using his kind of puffed out celebration.
Yeah.
That's clearly going to be the trademarked image. But like it's pretty good, and I guess the most important thing is that Kane liked it, since we're obviously bending over backwards trying to get him to sign a new deal. And whenever his birthday is in July, I hope the club have already got the birthday cakes on order. We don't want another Yaya Toure situation. But yeah, like it's great, and I still think having Kane would have been better. But that's just being semantics. It's like Harry. I don't know. It's a bit almost personal. Like he's not Boris. He doesn't have a one name thing.
No. And people are already putting in the comments about being Harry Winks. And I've got a friend whose son's called Harry, and he was obviously delighted. So he's like taking a picture of himself, like as a selfie, with that in the background. Because anyone who's called Harry, it's brilliant. It's even, Harry Maguire could be delighted with our Tifo as well.
That's what it is. We're actually just trying to sign Harry Maguire. That is the purpose of it. It's nothing to do with Kane. That what looks like Kane's shape to make the A is just Maguire's forehead. That's what it is.
Yeah, someone's just put there, Adzia's put there about the font. The font is slightly non-Spurs as well, isn't it? Because I was like, there is quite a unique kind of Spurs font as well. What did you make of it, Matt? Because the thing is about, one thing I would say about is we were all very good. Those of us that did it, we got in time. And the thing is absolutely huge. So when you hold it up, you can't see anything either side of it, right? So it's like this, and I'm trying to take a picture of Jack. So the whole kind of experience of it is lost on those of us that are holding it because you can't see the pitch, you can't see anything. What did it look like on TV, Matt?
I thought it looked all right. I thought it was all right. I know it got a lot of stick before. I agree with HG. You could have sort of gone Kane or HK10 or whatever, but I thought it was all right. Like you said, white on blue. I like Kane being in the A and stuff, but yeah, I thought it was all right. It could have done better, but the club funded it, didn't they? Did they, Becky, or was it?
Yeah. No, they did. The THFC Flags one is next week, so they'd already kind of mentioned that they wanted to do one for him, and they're gonna. I think it's been sorted. I think there's going to be a flag, one of those ones that sort of. I'm not sure it goes all the way across the south stand, but it is one of those ones that is sort of pulled further through. I think I'm not totally sure, but. That was always going to be the Chelsea game. So the club said they wanted to do something for the following home game after we got the 267.
But pretty straight to the point, wasn't it? It's for Harry, and it did the job it was there for, and I think aesthetically it looks all right. Could have been a lot worse. Could have been.
It's the best one I think we've seen.
Yeah,
it's the best one so far. I mean, it's still a pretty low bar. I haven't liked any of the others really before now. The whole "to dare to do" is nonsense or whatever it was. It didn't read perfectly as far as I was concerned. But yeah, the simple Harry. I mean, I think that's it. I think it just needs to be simple. It doesn't need to be, the first one we saw was obviously the "to dare" is to do, but still, just keep it simple. Have an image. I think the image is more important than anything else. Than words. I think making it wordy just
looking over Matt's shoulder at the cockerel, I'd imagine the cockerel part of it is quite tricky to do because the thing is about these is we have got one from the Sporting game, for example, anyway, because we knew what they were like. They're really robust, the material of them is robust, so I'd imagine to do something kind of curved would be more complicated, I'd imagine, than just because when they did the THFC one, didn't they? That's obviously square letters, the C a little bit more tricky, I suppose. One thing that's really cool about them is they make absolutely cracking paper aeroplanes. Look at this. Right? We can't claim credit for this one. So, the first half was fairly dull and there was a lot of fun because the other thing as well, for those of you that don't know, is that they're wrapped around the chairs with elastic bands. So in the second half, Martinez was getting them flung at him. But they make the actual paper makes cracking aeroplanes, and people were sort of throwing them. And those of you who've been on Twitter today may have seen that people are sort of filming them, trying to sort of throw them. And there's this one where Sonny picks it up and chucks it back in. But yeah, Jack was well impressed with this. We carried it all the way home and kept it. It's like a memento.
I think we just need a big again, the ones I've seen, the ones I've been part of, they kind of just pass it over your head.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't see it, but it's not the point that I get to see it. You're showing the whole world something, right? And so,
and those could be reused. This is the thing about the cost of them saying the club pays them. I get that, and the one for next week when they've done it before is that at the Sporting game, people were balling them up and chucking them like snowballs onto the pitch. So yeah, if it was a fabric one, I'm assuming somebody at the top of the South Stand would then collect it in, and that's what they do at Newcastle. Yeah, imagine. Did I say Martinez? Oh, sorry, I just read the comment. Yes, of course. Fabianski, not Martinez, one goalkeeper. Right, okay, so yeah, the Tifo's great, like you said, his family were there and Greaves' wife was there, and
that was nice.
Yeah, I said to my friend Joe, it felt a bit rushed, that part of it. It's like he was trying to take pictures of people, wasn't he, and turn the next person, but yeah, the pictures of his daughter were lovely because she was trying to hold it, wasn't she? It looked fairly substantial. From what I understand, it's got all the goals engraved around the outside of it with the boot, so yeah, like you said, it's all a ploy to get him to sign. Right, okay, let's get on with the game. If we have to, for the first half of it anyway. Okay, so we beat West Ham 2-0, for those of you who don't know. The lineup. Matt, what do you make of the lineup?
Well, I've got to be honest. In the group, when I first saw it, I don't actually mind like Ben Davies playing as a left wing back because I think he's better than Sessegnon. First thing when I looked at it, I've been down on the tactics and stuff lately, and I looked at it and I'm like, 3 centre backs, 2 full backs, 2 older midfielders. I thought we'd beat West Ham anyway because I'm not. I think they're absolute garbage. But I just thought, oh, here we go, bore fest. I mean, it worked out for the best, but that's the truth. When I saw it first one, I think a lot of other people looked at it like that as well. You just look at it and think 5 at the back with 2 older midfielders, negative. But it worked out. We won, but it just looking at it first of all, I just wasn't excited, wasn't impressed.
I mean, it's interesting that those of us that remember the dark days of Ozzy Ardiles as manager when we had 5 attackers and barely a defence. That team wasn't great at attacking. Even if it had all those attackers, it didn't really function. And so, to me, it's all about, it'd be nice to have lots more attackers in the team. But I remember that game against Leicester last season where we went there and, fluked it, deserved to win, but left it late, let's say. And it was a 3-5-2 then, and I think the 3 in midfield were Skipp, Winks, and Hojbjerg. I mean, the front 2 I think was Lucas and Harry Kane that day. But that was a pretty defensive side, and yet we created lots of chances that night. So I guess it's all about whether it works for that game. And even though we had 7 defenders, I mean, let's face it, or 7 defensive players starting, West Ham had 8.
But I think HB, that's because of my perception of watching Spurs at the minute, how I feel like that team comes up, and in my head's just go straight to default. Look at this. 8. Do you know what I mean? I'm not thinking of the bigger picture. I'm just looking at that going, here we go again. Another.
Yeah, and I think the feeling in the ground was the same. There was people. Kerry's put in the comments, Sonny was dropped. Is that there were rumours that it was possibly going to happen. I know Twitter went down a little bit. I think it was on Friday night.
But I don't have a problem with that.
No, and lots of people were saying he did that. That interview did need to say that he understands the criticism and he wants to do better. And I sort of tried to read into that was that he was playing despite the criticism or he wasn't. And anyway, Richarlison was playing and that was his opportunity, and Sonny was benched. And then when I saw that Perisic wasn't playing, me and Gemma were like, oh, that means that Davis must be playing left wing back because Longley will be playing left centre back, and kind of work backwards from there. And sort of this idea that Sarr was not going to play, Hojbjerg played instead and Skipp, which again, I think some people would say they would have wanted Skipp and Sarr, but equally they understand that Hojbjerg would come back. Hojbjerg had done all the press all week, so I always think, the cynic in me thinks when he does all the press, he's the one who's playing. But yeah, weirdly, it is very defensive, but in reality, and certainly in the second half, Romero and Dier and Longley were so far forward that it didn't really feel like that kind of in reality. But I know certainly when the lineups came up, I had people messaging me saying, "What the hell is this?" But yeah, so the game gets go on.
So if we're going to be doing the defending higher up the pitch, then I don't think any of us really care. Having 7 defensive players sat on our 18-yard box sucks. But if they're going to play higher up the pitch, we don't mind as much. I mean, I don't feel that Skipp and Hojbjerg did anything outrageously defensive during the game. I mean, because they kind of left it to the back 3. And we saw that, obviously with the first goal, we saw Ben Davies and Emerson were getting forward at every opportunity. So as much as they are defensive players, they were in attacking positions. And perhaps we might be better off if we had attackers in attacking positions. But I think the success of yesterday was more about where we were playing than who was actually playing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and that was key, I think, with Davis, because in the first half, his starting position was so much further up the pitch than Perisic's normally is. He was on the ball, quite a lot. So we kick off, even in the first minute, West Ham have a kind of half chance. I watched the highlights back. I love it when we win, and I'm on half term as well, so I've done nothing all day long. I watched the match of the day this morning, and then watched half an hour highlights, and then at 1:00 to watch the entire game back again, just because I had time to. But they made quite a big thing of Bowen's chance, And looking back, really, it was nothing more than a half chance, was it, Matt? Because it didn't even test.
I'm gonna be honest now. You'll have to ask HG that because I came into my kitchen after about 3 minutes because I was in the bathroom.
Yeah, so HG, it wasn't a. Let's say about that. It wasn't a huge chance, was it?
You mean the one for West Ham that they had?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I think it was a pretty good chance. I mean, like again, it was a free shot from distance, but when it's Bowen, you think he could find the bottom corner. I don't think it was that far away, but we were just caught out at a throw-in. I mean, it was just a simple throw-in over the top, and Souček doesn't even control it. I think he hits it first time, almost David Platt style, over his head, and it fell to Bowen. And I mean, the Spurs fan in me was like, well, it's going to go in. I mean, as soon as he hit it quite well, you thought, oh, we're in trouble here. And I think Forster was more watching than diving in expectation. But like a great chance, no. But something that could have hurt us, absolutely.
I've just watched it. I've just watched it. I don't watch. If Spurs played, I won't watch match day or go back. So I've just looked at that now. Zach told me about it, but really, obviously, they never scored it. It would have to have been some strike to go in from there, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and that's how I felt when he took the shot off, because that was at the South Stand. I thought it's a bit of a wake up call, and we were sleeping, and for it to kind of happen straight after kick off, but it wasn't necessarily something to be too worried about. And I've written in the run sheet here, because again I've had more time today, so I've written that. Is that I thought Skipp was harshly booked. 8 minutes it was. He was booked. What do you? Did you see that bit, Matt? His booking.
Yeah. I mean. Wow, most tackles you get booked now, don't you? There's no sort of like challenges that, apart from obviously, I'm saying this, and then Sabitzer went and done that face and got away with. Did he get a yellow for that, HG?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. I've only heard about it, but I haven't seen what happened.
Yeah. So I mean. Yeah, it's usually Romero who gets the early booking, isn't it? But yeah.
Well, I'm Bentancur, because I seem to remember at the City game, Bentancur got booked on like 15 minutes, I think.
Can you remember years ago, you used to sort of get away with one, didn't you? You could get away with one. You get one in early, but not now. But it didn't. I don't think it really affected him that much, to be fair.
No, he did very well, I thought. Very well with such an early booking. Yeah, very well.
Yeah, so, bookings now. You don't get what you used to get them for.
He did catch him, and he went in with speed. I mean, he'd lost the ball, he'd overrun it, had it been 20 minutes later, no one would have complained. But you do feel like after 8 minutes, like, come on, ref, like let him have one. Like he's kind of player, all that nonsense. But if you take it, for whenever it was, it's probably a booking. It was weird for that to be the first one, but I guess it also in a Spurs West Ham game kind of sets the tone a little bit, because if players are going to get booked for something that's maybe 80% of a booking, then it will stop the blood and thunder challenges that we usually see, and that probably helps Spurs, because when West Ham are flying into challenges and getting away with it, then we don't deal with that too well. So it kind of worked out for Spurs in the end.
Okay, so the first real kind of incident of note really was whether we should have had a penalty. And as John's written this bit, I think, or maybe David's written this, that I've forgotten that we had a penalty not given by VAR in the away leg. I remember that went to VAR and we didn't have it, did we? And that seemed to kind of change the way we played that game. But yeah, so I watched this from the South Stand, which is almost directly opposite the other end of the pitch. And even from where I was, you could tell the way his body shape was, is that he was leaning that kind of way, because the ball's yellow as well. And I said to Jack, I said, it was the way the players reacted as well. I know Richarlison will, he's one of those that will kind of challenge for everything and try and get everything. But Kane's reaction, and I think Dier and Hojbjerg and all those are kind of in that vicinity. We didn't see anything. We didn't see a replay. It didn't say it was going to VAR. We just assumed it had gone to VAR because they were all crowding around the ref. And then people have started texting us going, we've just seen it back, and oh my God, how they did not give that type of thing. What did you make of it, Matt?
Well, I think it's a penalty, but half time, like Souness was talking, I don't know if it was a bit tongue in cheek, and they obviously give out the rule if a player's falling and he touches the ball, all that type of nonsense. But like, there's like falling over and there's just sort of like stooping down and slipping, isn't there? And like his arm isn't in a natural position there. Like that's a penalty for me all day long. But obviously not, is it?
To be fair to Kira, I think his arm is in a natural position. To me, it's unnatural to put your arms behind your back.
Yeah,
That's not natural. And in this case, obviously he's not expecting the pass to be made. He's obviously stumbling and falling, and his arm's gone out just because to balance yourself. He doesn't want to fall over, because if he falls over, then he's out of the game. So had it gone, and had it been given a penalty, I don't think anyone would have complained too much. And I mean, you're right. You've seen them given against us all the time.
Because what is the actual rule, HG? There's
it's not supposed to be intentional. I've had this conversation with my husband. He goes, it's not intentional. It's like whoever intends to handball it in a penalty area. It's never intentional, is it?
There obviously are players who sort of have who've done it on purpose, handballed it, but tried to make it look like it wasn't on purpose. But like you say, Beck, a lot of them are sort of like accidents. And so for me, he's obviously not saying he's tried to knock it out, but
he does move his hand though. And people have put that in the comments. He does move, and if you watch it as well, he actually goes to sort of touch it before the ball comes to him. If you watch him, there's two motions where he moves his hand, then he doesn't. Then the ball comes to him, then he moves it again. And he does definitely move it towards the ball.
But it's like HG said. If that had been given, I think they'd have complained first of all. But after it would have just gone on with it, because
it's lucky it didn't influence the result. I think that's the biggest thing.
What I find interesting is that it went to VAR. I mean, in the stadium you won't know that it did go to VAR. Yeah. But the question, what it didn't do is that the VAR ref made the decision. He didn't leave it to Michael Oliver, because otherwise Michael Oliver would have gone to the screen and made the decision for himself. And I think when you look at it, in super slow-mo from 12 angles, you probably think it's a penalty. But it just, as a defender, when I played, I was a defender, I don't think he's trying to handle the ball. I think his arm is out there and the ball has hit it. But I guess I want to think of deliberate. There are some people, if you put your arms out like this, right, to make yourself bigger, then to me that's deliberate. I don't think he's trying to do that there. I know that John has said that he doesn't think he was trying to do it for balance. I do. The guy's clearly stumbling over, falling that way, and it's natural to put your arm out just in case. Even if because he didn't fall over, but if you think you're going to do that. I think that's quite natural. So, you're right. It doesn't matter now because we won the game. And we'll see penalties given against Spurs like that, I'm sure, at some point in this season. But I guess I didn't feel massively as if the world was against us because we didn't get that penalty.
I think also the timing of it happened early, didn't it? I think it depends. Things like this depend on what time. Not that that doesn't mean whether they're given or not. I think how you feel about them depends on what time of the game they are, and this all happened, really early on, didn't it?
I think the only thing that I wished would have happened is that I wished Michael Oliver would have seen it. Right? I mean, maybe Oliver said over the communications that he saw it live, he doesn't need to see it again, but I doubt that. But I just think that, as we said, because Richarlison and Kane both went up in arms, anyone in the area shouted handball, so you knew that that wasn't in discussion. It clearly hit his hand, but the rest of it does become subjective. What is he trying to do? And I guess for me,
because last week was it Souček had one?
Yeah.
I think when you see that slowed down, it very slightly hits his knee, doesn't it? So this one, there's clear daylight between his knee and his hand. But I do agree with HD. If you're falling that way, your arms do go that way, and he isn't going to kind of hide them behind his back and fall.
But we're sort of sat here trying to debate it, and none of us really know what the actual handball rule is, do we? We don't know. What it is. Can you remember Danny Rose's in the Champions League against Man City when they missed the penalty, but he sort of slid his arm was up in the air, but he was sliding.
Yes.
And it sort of hit him.
Yeah.
And
I think so.
And those don't tend to get given now because they're arguing that they're too close. So a lot of them don't get given, do they, when they seem too close? So everyone at the stadium just sort of went, they mustn't have given it because they'll just say it was too close to him. And because to be fair to Richarlison, it's almost like he's passing it to Kane. but it's almost like one of
Newcastle.
them ones where he's like flicking at him. You know, sometimes when they try and flick it at the player, so close.
Newcastle had a penalty against us where Joe Linton headed it onto Dier's, but Dier was facing the other way. He jumped for, and like they changed the rule a day after, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
I mean, I think in that case, like it's about what 3 feet between Richarlison's foot and when it hits the hand. Like it's pretty close. And if the ball's on the ground, it doesn't hit his hand. You know, like there are lots of things. I just think that it's harsh either way, if that makes sense. I think it would have been a harsh on the defender had it been given, and it's harsh on Spurs that it wasn't. But I don't want to see penalties given for absolutely everything, because penalties are pretty much a guaranteed goal, especially for Spurs. So I like the idea of Spurs having as many goals as possible, but I also, as a defender, I don't want it to become basketball. I don't want penalties given for every single thing in the box. So I wasn't upset at the time. I mean, I laughed about it, but it's much easier to talk about it now.
It never cost us, did it? Like you guys said, never cost us. So we can laugh about it and debate about it, and it doesn't matter.
Okay, so let's carry on with the game, which didn't have a great deal else of note, really. There was a chance. Was it after Longley got injured? So Longley got injured, didn't he? And that's right. Romero had that tackle, didn't he? Where he tried to stop it going out for a corner. Romero was very Romero-like on Sunday, but without getting booked. I think his timing was.
He was trying.
I know, but his time. I was saying this to Jack. It's difficult, isn't it? If he mistimes them, their bookings because of the way he comes in. But he did really well with them this week. So he had that one where it went out for a corner, seemed to kind of injure himself. Yeah. And then I can't remember the incident, but it came in, and then Longley got hit, didn't he? And he went down for quite a while and came back on. And this is at the point for those of you when you go to the ground, any stoppages from about 35 minutes onwards, everybody just goes to get the pint or go and get food, and the ground empties. And then we had this chance where it went down the other end in injury time, and we had the one where Kane flicked it over to Richarlison. So I was saying to somebody at half time, Richarlison needs to take his chances. He's not going to get loads of chances where Son is benched, and he needs to take his chances. And there was this one where it were just times where it didn't seem to quite click between the two of them. Richarlison tried to do a lot of them where he'd kind of spin off on the shoulder and it would kind of get intercepted. But there was this one where Kane hits it over in injury time. Richarlison kind of runs around. You think the ball's gone, but it's such a great pass. As he said in commentary I watched today, it's a centimetre pass. And Fabianski saves it, doesn't he? And then from the resulting corner, Romero heads it over the bar. But that was really it for chances. A lot of people in the ground felt it was quite boring. It was, even though Conte wasn't on the pitch, Stellini was there. It felt like it was a bit flat again. Would that be a fair reflection of the first half?
I mean, I know when I go to read the chat group at halftime, I turn off any chat things because I know that there's a good chance I'll find out about a goal long before it actually happened.
Me too. Yeah.
But everyone was saying what a disappointing first half it was and how boring it was, and I thought I didn't think Spurs had been that bad. I mean, obviously West Ham had been poor, right? So saying that you stopped them from playing doesn't mean a great deal, but I just felt. I liked that Kulusevski, Kane and Richarlison were making more runs. They weren't just standing in their spot and waiting for the ball to come to their area. And because with all these patterns of plays, you kind of have to be the right person in the right place to do that. And I don't want Spurs to have all those automations. I like the idea of them kind of thinking things up on the fly a little bit. So I thought Richarlison did all right. Obviously he didn't have too many chances, but then again. West Ham had 8 defenders. I don't know how. To me, it's all about what are Spurs doing with the ball? Can they progress the ball? Are they playing well? Right? Because once you're playing well, then hopefully the chances will come. They didn't come in the first 45 minutes. You're right. It was a set piece and that kind of hopeful ball over the top. But I liked how Spurs were playing. I thought Skipp was doing well. I thought Emerson obviously didn't stick to the touchline. Was making runs kind of more infield, which is what we've seen. He's obviously better at. So I liked what Spurs were doing because I don't think you can expect suddenly the team to function as well as it maybe did at the end of last season. Things have changed a little bit. And so Yeah, at half time, yeah, okay, I was annoyed that we weren't winning, but I wasn't distraught about it. I didn't think it was terrible football.
Matt?
I didn't like. I thought it was all right. I never really in that game felt that. I thought I thought West Ham like we played some poor like West Ham, Southampton, and Everton at home have been three really poor teams we've played. So I expected to beat them. And what I found, I mean, it is different. I find Spurs boring to watch. I've got like a bee in my bonnet about it now. So it's always at the forefront of my mind when we watch us. And I felt if we just not take it up a notch, we win this game, which is obviously what we did in the second half. But I just wish we'd have maybe tried to do it a bit more in the first half. But, it's like, hey, we weren't horrible. It just felt like one really poor team and one okay team feeling each other out, trying to take a bit of advantage. But yeah, it was just some of nothing for me. It's just, I just sat there thinking another sort of Spurs first 45-minute performance. But West Ham are really poor and really they're there for the taking.
If you go back to the Villa game, like I don't feel like we were any worse than we were against Villa when we lost. But of course, Villa had two strikers on the pitch, and so always had that threat.
Yeah.
Whereas, although West Ham had two, they didn't have anyone willing to join them. Like Soufal and Emerson are again more defensive fullbacks, and Souček and Rice weren't making those runs forward. And I mean, I've never heard of Flynn Downs really. I know he was at Ipswich and he's a West Ham fan, but he doesn't play that often. I was happy that Ben Rama didn't play because Ben Rama is the type of player who can score from nowhere.
And Lanzini
or from everywhere. And then anyone like that, Lanzini. I mean, what's the other guy? I want to say Fornals, but it's not Fornals. Thank you. Like they've got a bunch of attacking midfielders, and again, the best West Ham team of last season when they were playing well, they had three attackers, at least three, maybe even a 4-2-3-1 at times. So it's clear that unless it was going to be a long ball over the top for Antonio, we should have been okay. But I think I was impressed at how well Skipp and Hojbjerg worked together. I thought Skipp played really well. Even though I probably would have preferred to see Sarr, I wasn't unhappy at Skipp. I didn't think, like we've seen Bissouma a lot this season and wondered what he was doing. With Skipp, it was clear that he knew his part, he knew his role, and that's really all. To me, like I want to believe there's a plan and that the players are, actually going out and executing it. And I did get that feeling. As much as we didn't create many chances, I thought that we played quite well.
Yeah, and I was the same. I didn't, like you just said then about Villa. At half time, it felt a great deal different to Villa. When I watched it back today, they were saying that there's never been a 0-0 at White Hart Lane, at the new White Hart Lane, Tottenham Hotspur. And it's 102nd. Yeah, it's 102nd time now that they've played a match there, and I don't think anybody thought it was gonna remain 0-0. Like you said, we're always hopeful for Spurs in the second half, aren't we? And that it had that potential. I think that's the word I would use. That with Davis playing higher up the pitch and Royal kind of coming inside a bit and linking up with Kulusevski and Romero's moving forward, you did get this idea that it will come. So, and obviously we've got more options on the bench now, which was quite heartening as well. So I think the feeling was we were going to be okay.
I mean, West Ham were awful, weren't they? I know this is talk about, but how bad were they? I don't think I've seen them that bad for a while. I was watching it thinking this lot are awful. I mean, like, is it Kufau, the fullback?
Yeah.
I thought this bloke is dire. He's absolutely dire. And I and that's what frustrated me, that you're thinking this lot are here for the taking if we turn it up a notch. Luckily we did, and
And I thought as well. Go on, Hiju.
No. So Becky, say please.
No, I was just going to say I thought they came out second half, straight away on it. It wasn't sort of 10-15 minutes to get going. It was immediately on the kind of front foot.
Yeah. I mean, the point about Soufal is that, he's a fullback, right? They've asked him to play wing back, but he's a fullback by trade. He's a fullback who likes to defend and get forward when he can, but it's not his game. And they've got, I was trying to think who their back five was, and there was always one I was forgetting. It was like the Seven Dwarves. But Emerson isn't really a left back; he is a wing back. So, like, what do you do, right? Like, how are West Ham going to play that? I understand why West Ham tried to keep it tight, but we all know what Spurs are like right now. I mean, there was an article that said that Spurs were quite brittle. We've lost a lot of games recently, and when teams have taken their chances, and West Ham didn't really put themselves in a position to take those chances. They had that one very early on. They had the one straight after our goal. But outside of that, Forster was just watching the game. Yeah, and so I think if I was a West Ham fan, and thankfully I'm not, I would be looking at thinking, this is an important game for us. It was a chance to maybe get some points against a team that we shouldn't do, but it's Spurs, right? Like everyone knows that Spurs can be quite flaky, and West Ham just never really went for it, and so they deserve to lose.
Yeah, and they usually raise their game against us, don't they? And I think they didn't, and I think that I don't really follow any West Ham fans, but I've got the sense that they were disappointed that they didn't raise their game for either. And it's with us, isn't it? Which team was going to turn up? I know we've had a lot of injuries and there's been a lot of changes and enforced changes, and obviously the Stellini impact. We're always better at home, I think, still, and we're much more positive at home. But it was which Spurs was going to turn up. Was it the City Spurs, or was it going to be the Leicester that gets Spurs? And that was I think the only worry. But second half they came out better. That chance that kind of Kane took very early in the second half, that he kind of snatched out really. He just didn't really get hold of it, did he? And it wasn't,
it was a poor effort. I don't think I can say that really about someone who scored as many goals as But when he was there, I thought this is either finding the corner or the keeper's making a save, and for it to go out almost by the corner.
But he hit it with the wrong foot, I thought, because that was kind of shooting towards us, and it never bent it. It just carried on going straight. I felt like he hit it with the wrong foot. But then we had the goal. So, John's written this, or Davo has, I hadn't written this, but it says Hojbjerg with a Pirlo-esque pass through to Davis, who, was really high up. We've talked about that already. Cutting past between the two defenders, that kind of pass that he made through to Royal was, I'm not sure if it nutmegged them, but it went between the two defenders, didn't it? And then Royal slotted it down really coolly. And I think even before it got to him, I know people around us, we felt that there was only, I was going to just say, we felt there was only one place to go, but then remember at Leeds when he oofed it over and it ended up top of Southland. But yeah, it was a really, really, it says here, ice cold finish. And I found out today as well, that was his 50th appearance, which is like...
Who, Royals?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Premier League, Premier League. Yeah. He's probably played a few more. Was it second goal, third goal?
Well, he scored at City, the way at City, didn't he?
And he scored at Newcastle last season, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, the kind
and Brighton in the FA Cup.
Newcastle game.
Kind of funny, fluke goal. But yeah, Matt, what did you make of that goal?
It's a good goal. Full-backs, wing-backs high up the pitch. Defence splitting pass from the much maligned Hojbjerg. So, I thought it was a good goal. It's nice to see the wing-backs actually high up the pitch. Because I said earlier, I thought it was just two full-backs in there. They both got high up the pitch. And Hojbjerg's put it in a really good position. The wing-backs run onto it. And like you said, when he scored, me and Zach were cheering and sort of laughing at the same time.
Yeah, the stadium was same at City away as well. It was this sort of look of, did he really just do that? And have we just witnessed this? And
I absolutely love what Royale's doing at the minute, because earlier in the season when we were on about bringing new players in, I always used to say that if you bring new players in, competition should make other players better. That's what top professionals should be responding to competition. And that's exactly what he's done. He's been fantastic he's been really, really good the last few weeks. And, he's responded to Spurs bringing in another player in his position. And he's fighting for the shirt. That's what we all want to see. Fair play to him. I think he's been really good. And, I was really happy to see him score, and he's took a lot of sticks. So, fair's fair when we give him sticks. So you got to praise the guy when he does stuff good, and he was good yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, I saw an interesting clip on Twitter yesterday that suggested at half time that Spurs made a change where instead of playing the ball to our front three, we were going to look for balls over the top for the wing backs to make runs onto. And it's because it's a weird situation when Hojbjerg has the ball and he's looking forward, and there's a camera angle I think from what I call the north stand, but the non-home end as it is now, the tiered home end.
The north stand.
It is the north. Okay, fine. So like the Paxton Road end, but still, and like there's really no one ahead of Hojbjerg to play the ball to. Like those simple 10, 15-yard passes that we see, there's no one there. And so he plays the ball basically between the centre-backs, I guess hoping that the wing-backs are going to be there and get there first. Again, like they have a head start in the fact that they were running. The centre-backs had to turn around and really get going. But Davies got there first. He got there ahead of the wing-back. And I don't know if we've ever practiced that pass before, but when you see that angle, you think, that pass isn't on.
No.
Like, at no way do you think, if I put it into that area of the pitch, Ben Davies might get there first. It was an incredible pass. And but I can believe that he meant it, that was the plan. If we take away the attacking three, then, of course, there's more space to then hopefully find a gap. And somehow we did it. And, like, honestly, if it was Sessegnon who had made that run, he would have got there first, but he probably would have been offside by a foot when the ball was played. Little things like that, where Davies is a smart player. He understands it, because we all know he's not the fastest, but still he showed enough to get there and then put it on a plate for Emerson. I mean, Emerson didn't have to break stride, didn't have to take a touch, and it seems like an easy thing to do, but you're running full speed. Davies pokes it forward with his right foot. And so then you're all just, we're all kind of sitting at home or sitting in the stadium thinking, is Emerson really going to score? Like, is this Sissoko at Liverpool time? Or is he actually going to score? And
he slotted it away really coolly, didn't he? Like, really coolly. Like, Fabianski didn't even move.
Well, Fabianski didn't move because Fabianski's crap. Like, I'm sorry, if a goalkeeper moves for that, I think there's a good chance he saves it. But I think, for Fabianski, like, I understand the guy's in front of you, you don't know how hard he's going to kick it, but still, you make some kind of movement. You don't just kind of go...
Well, go big, make yourself big. He didn't really...
No, he just watched the ball. And, I don't think Royal hit it that hard. He placed it well.
It was the pace of the cross, wasn't it? Or the ball to him.
Yeah, but it just like... I felt like had Fabianski just stood there and treated it like a normal shot, he might have saved it. But because he was kind of on his heels, the fact that it was a bit of a trickler, because again, I don't think he kicked it particularly hard, but the aim was good, right?
And the thing is as well, the whole kind of 6-yard box was covered in elastic bands as well. So there was every chance that there was going to be like a bobble or something, because it was absolutely covered in...
Do you think going through Emerson's head, he's thinking... Just get it on target. Just get it on target.
I don't know. I love the guy, but I think if we kind of go into how much he thinks about things, we could.
If he lashes at it, and it's Rose Ed, so he's thinking just pick my spot and just get it on target. And obviously, like you said, Fabianski is literally
rooted,
barely moved. Yeah, but
and the celebration was lovely as well. So, like, obviously, we're all going nuts, and everyone's all looking at each other, going, "What have we just witnessed?" But bear in mind, I'd seen it at City as well. But it like people put in the comments, there was a huge roar, and everyone was just sort of laughing and delighted with kind of like a disbelief kind of look. And then you kind of find yourself, and you kind of look back at the players, and the next thing I saw was him and Richarlison doing like the pigeon kind of thing. But looking back today. Is when we'd seen, like, I don't know if people have seen this, like Romero has like kicked him, and then he gets the ball, doesn't he? And he puts it under his top because his girlfriend's expecting, which is lovely. And then after that, the ball goes away and Romero's headbutting him, and you're like, oh, it's just Romero is just nuts, absolutely nuts. But yeah, the whole, everyone was so happy.
Like you give Royal that chance 10 more times, I think he misses 8 of them. I mean, I'm still not confident that when that happens again, he'll find the bottom corner again.
Yeah.
I'm really not. And that might be me just being Spurs negative, but still, like, of all the players in Spurs' team at that point, Royal still would have been one of the last I would want to take that shot. Right? Even though there's no evidence that Skipp can score from there. Hojbjerg, we know, can score. But still, I just thought, of all the people, I talked about it on my Facebook thing, like, you see the pass played across, there's a player one-on-one with the keeper about, 18 yards out, bit closer?
Yeah.
And then I see it's Royal, and I did that, he scored! And it was it was a shock, right? Like I didn't cheer it like a normal goal because I was expecting it to not go in. So when it went in, it's brilliant. And as people said, he deserves it. Right, he's played really well. He's much more comfortable running inside with the ball at his feet. He doesn't want to take people on. He doesn't want to go outside of people. But when you run inside, you've got obviously more passing options to go with. And we all know that he likes a no-look pass. So I just feel that Kulusevski coming back, as underwhelming as Kulusevski might have been, the fact that he likes to hug the touchline means that there is going to be space for whoever, whether it was Doherty or now Royal, to move into. So inside, I think that has helped Emerson more than anything else.
Yeah, and he didn't really have much to do defensively yesterday. I can remember a couple of tackles near the end where the whole of North Low absolutely roared. So I think
they worry me though.
They did against City. They did against City. So we had them, didn't he, against Grealish, and I'm at the other end like this going, what? Thinking, don't drive in and don't foul in. And
I don't like defenders. I know going to ground constantly or for the sake of it. Yeah. I always used to remember we had Woodgate. We didn't have him. He didn't play loads of games for us because he was always injured. But the one thing I'll always remember about him was he never, ever went to ground. I can always remember somebody as well, me talking about it with someone who knew a little bit about football, and we said, that's what's so good about it. I just wish he could have played more football. He never sort of slid in. He never went, didn't have to go to ground. And Royal yesterday, he did it a couple of times where he was just, it was as if he was like, I'm just going to slide in here. He was desperate to slide in. Just like he slid, didn't he? And then he turned around and did it again. I mean, it was great because it came off, but
and West Ham are low on confidence, aren't they? And a few people were saying to me, people were saying West Ham were woeful, and they're like, if we place a team that's better, then it's not going to be as positive. And people put in the chat, be careful about being too over the top about Emerson. But like you just said, for the way he's playing, he deserves the credit because of how he's kind of upped his game. Certainly, if we go back to the transfer deadline day, I said on the show myself, I was really surprised that Doherty went, because he's more of a utility player and there's different positions that he can be played in. And, Emerson has really kind of stepped up on, when he's got Porro in the wings. The only thing that slightly disappointed me, and I put this on Twitter today, is that he didn't let Porro come on. Because when the game was over, and we haven't even got to go on his goal yet, when that kind of, the idea that he could have brought him on and he would have had a standing ovation, and Porro would have had like 10, 15 minutes at the Spurs Stadium just to kind of, get against a poor side. And, we may not see him now until Sheffield United. And, I think that was just a shame, really. I think you didn't need to bring Perisic on. That was the only thing for me. I would have done that differently, but that's just...
Perisic came on, didn't he, and showed, basically showed how poor one-on-one defending he is.
It was.
I think he was just trying to kick a West Ham player into the West Ham fans. I mean,
he did.
He wasn't. I don't think he was that great, but
no, he wasn't. So let's go back, and we've gone out of chronological order now. So after we scored, and the delight of it, and I've just written here that I've remembered that Richarlison also got his hand around Emerson's throat as well. The celebrations were just nuts. But anyway, Bowen pretty much from kickoff, doesn't he? We lose the ball, and he's down the other end, and it was like Romero's tracking him, and again, I'm in the south stand going, don't foul him. And to be fair, Romero just kind of tracks him, and then he shoots, and Forster just sort of did the only thing he did really in the whole game. I've written in the run sheet there was no booking for Romero this match. Like, that deserves a mention by itself. But yeah, that's
He's going to get sent off against Chelsea. I think we have to assume that that's going to happen. He's going to kick Chelsea players into the stands, miss the Sheffield United game, and probably end up with a 3-match ban because he's got his 2-match for all the bookings. Like Romero is not going to play most of March. But let's hope that those games in March. I mean, I know we've got Forest, Wolves. Like hopefully, a lot of those games we could probably win without him. But still, Romero, a red card is going to happen. He's going to get 2 yellows pretty soon.
He's gone mad
yeah,
since the World Cup, hasn't he? He's gone absolutely nuclear with his tackles and the way he's been. I think he's gone.
He said in an interview that he can't reduce the aggression, and then Levy had spoken to him and saying he's going to have to, because I think he's had 7 bookings, hasn't he, this season, and the sending off. And like we just said, reintimated then that he made some meaty challenges on Sunday, and they were perfectly timed. But there are going to be times when that's not going to happen, or there's going to be a ref who's looking for things a bit more, and it won't. And that's like I still say, it was one of the funniest things ever when he got a standing ovation getting sent off at City. I've never seen that for a player sent off. It was hilarious.
I think it's interesting, considering he's had a couple of yellow cards that weren't really, I think, because the reputation meant that they were yellow cards. But I mean, the one that Antonio got yesterday, where he doesn't even touch Kane at any point. At some point, you just have to think, okay, these will happen. It's an occupational hazard. He'll get some that he probably deserves, and he'll get some that he probably doesn't deserve. But it's about where are you making those challenges? If you're trying to win the ball really high up, it's kind of unnecessary. If you're making a last-ditch challenge and you don't get there, I think we're okay with that, and that seems to be Romero's issue.
Why I said that one in the first half where he stops it going for a corner.
Yeah.
That's different, but there's ones where I can still remember a Villa. It was like the 85th minute, and he ran almost the entire length of the pitch, and it's like that's not necessary. That's where he needs to just say, okay, just dial it down a bit. But anyway, right, okay. So it says here Spurs appeared in control, and then on the 68th minute we had a substitution. Richarlison, who looked, I've seen it back on highlights, he looked proper glum, didn't he, being subbed, which I think. Yeah. It's fair. I think he needs to run a games. He wants to run a games. I said straight away to Jack. Obviously, I was delighted Sonny's coming on. But the second thing that I said is how early the subs were. So if we go back in the weekend to Leicester, Conte makes the substitutions at 75 minutes and brings on defensive substitutions. We're winning on the 68th minute, and we bring attacking substitutions on. So there's a kind of that was quite positive, I felt. What did we think about I've written, John's written Richarlison, I've added Kulusevski to that as well. Matt, what did we make of their game yesterday?
I felt a little bit, I don't think he had a great game, Richarlison, but I thought he was full of running, he was busy. I did feel for him because, you sort of knew it was going to be him who was brought off, and he does need, he needs a run of games, and he's probably been sat there watching Son not playing well and think I deserve my chance. And then I sort of felt for him because he came off, and then it was a little bit fortunate that Ogbonna was so poor for the second goal, and Kane's played Son through. Son's made the run. And Richarlison's probably thinking, well, that could have been me. Obviously, as all players do in those scenarios. But yeah, I felt a bit for him. But then again, what other sub could he have made? Bring Kane off or Kulusevski? Thought Kulusevski grew in that second half. So yeah, I just feel a bit. I mean, I'm not a massive Richarlison fan. I'm not sure he's what everybody thought he was when we signed him. I think he's a good player, but yeah, I did feel a bit for him. And then obviously Son comes on and scores. But I think HG put it in the in our chat group yesterday. I kind of hope Richarlison starts the next game. Yeah. But yeah, I did feel for him a bit, and I thought he did all right. He occupies defenders, and like you said, the chance he had in the first half. That's because he's just running. He's putting it in and sort of made a bit of a chance from nothing really.
He had chance, didn't he? Straight away in the second half, didn't he? Where it came to him, and I can't remember, was it Kulusevski pulls it back to him? And I said today to Jack, Kane scores that, or Son will probably do better there, and he just it was just a bit flat to the keeper, wasn't it? He didn't really make much of it, and I know he's rusty and he's not had any games and he's been injured and blah blah.
I think that chance was all about the connection you get, and he went for power and he didn't get the connection he wanted, and so it was pretty tame in the end. But you're right, if he goes for precision, I mean, we've seen a couple of goals against us this year where people have put their foot through it with kind of like not recklessly, like they've just really gone for a good connection and it's flown in the top corner. I just feel as if that's kind of Richarlison's thing. Like he's all blood and thunder, but you don't expect a great deal of composure from him. And so it's. But yeah, I definitely would start him against Chelsea because I think the thing with Son is that, as we've seen this season, if Son scores, he's a threat, and if he doesn't, he's anonymous. And the one thing you can say about Richarlison is he's never anonymous. Like he's always there making again, I mean, I don't necessarily love players that are just running around and being a nuisance, but for the way that Spurs play right now, we need that. We absolutely need someone to keep the defenders from pushing up because Son, with his back to goal, it doesn't hurt anyone. It doesn't. I mean, we've seen it. We should have known this by now. Like Son will not hurt defenses if he's facing our own goal, and so. But Richarlison has that ability and wants to make those runs behind, and he's quite happy to hold defenders off.
Tried that a few times, didn't he, to kind of spin off the shoulder and
So I think to see Richarlison at his best. Go on, Gibbo, go.
So I was just going to say, there's nothing wrong, HG, with on the bench again and getting him to come off. Getting him a bit more hungrier. You know, he hasn't played well for a long time. Just because he come on and scored doesn't mean you have to start in the next game. Like, that's it now. Can play. You know, let's start. We won. We'll probably start with the same 11, I'd have thought. So, you know, make Son think, you know, in his head, I've got to come on. I've got to do that again. I've got to work harder. I've got to. It was the typical Son finish, wouldn't it? But when he came on, really game was over after he scored, wasn't it? So I don't think he didn't come on and then after he scored gone, that's the old Sonny back now.
He played some nice free balls, I thought. So when he came on, he scored after 4 minutes and 20 seconds. But because a lot of, obviously, like when I watched it back today, they're making a big deal about how, because I think they're trying to fill time as well, and they were seeing him like warming up, going, oh, you know, last time he came on, he scored an 11-minute hat trick. And I always, they're the sort of comments I think, do they add them back in after rather than talk it live? But that's me being cynical. So yeah, he scores after 4 minutes. But before that, he did have some really good touches. He was playing Kulusevski in. There was some play kind of between Kane. So he was quite busy from the kind of like as soon as he came on, which, you know, if he's had a rest and he's trying to make, you know, prove something, and that's all good and well. But yeah, so the goal was, I've written here, was just like the good old days. You know, you're right. The defender doesn't do well. You know, Kane's very strong there, isn't he? And the way he kind of passes it through, the first touch from Son and the way he sort of bends it in the bottom corner. And again, the roar from the crowd. It was a bit like Royals, really. As soon as he took, you know, he with that first touch, you just knew this was going in. And then he runs straight back to Kane and then jumps like that. And, you know, they've had 45 combinations now. And the next was Lampard and Drogba. Is it Drogba? Is that right?
Yeah, Drogba, yeah.
And it's 36. It's 36. So, you know, it was wonderful. And the game was over, and I was delighted, I've got to say. Seeing Sonny smiling is always just brilliant.
Yeah, and that goal was all about Sonny's first touch.
Yeah.
You know, Kane did nothing extraordinary, but we've seen plenty of times this season where Sonny's had a chance and the touch has not been there. And the touch was there. It was perfect. He got it out of his feet, was able to basically then try and pick his spot. Again, I don't think it was the best finish known to man, but if it goes in, what do I care? Right? It doesn't have to be right in the corner off the post like Messi's free kick was yesterday. As long as it goes in, I don't care. But, you know, like you want to see players who are able to pass it into the back of the net without really worrying. And Son's not there yet, but that touch with Son at his best. You know, not thinking about it, just doing it, and then you know, basically putting it in the net.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so it says next year in the run sheet that then Perisic came on for Longley, and it says here it was pretty much confirmed why Davis should play left wing back. So Davis got man of the match, didn't he, on Sky? I felt a bit for Emerson, really. I know Spurs gave it to Emerson. But yeah, so yeah, Perisic, he got booked, didn't he? And that you know, it wasn't a London derby. Like you said, maybe Skipp taking that early booking stopped it being kind of like a London derby kind of tackle wise. But for Perisic to get booked when he came on so late, And I agree with you. I think Antonio's one was harsh, but then the one that he did do when there was that kind of handbags, wasn't there? And it felt like kids' football, like they were saying to Antonio, you need to be subbed off, otherwise we're going to send you off. And that's kind of how it felt. And he went off. And then Benrahma had that free kick, didn't he? With Kulusevski being the draft excluder. But yeah, and there's been, if you've been on Twitter today, there's those pictures of Royal and Rice. Have we got that is that in the slides, the picture of...
Yes, it is. Hang on a second. I'm trying to figure out what John has put in here, but this one of Royal and Rice is there.
That's it.
There it is. And that was actually earlier than in the game. It wasn't when Rice was having the handbags of Hojbjerg. It was quite a bit earlier on. But yeah, that kind of sums up Royal, doesn't it, really? Very happy. He's very happy at the moment.
Wasn't it? I think I saw a Twitter today that Rice was caught saying to Hojbjerg, "No one likes you."
No.
Twice, apparently. Twice.
Yeah.
It was, twice.
And
like,
I should imagine
wow.
Hojbjerg. I should imagine Hojbjerg would have said a little less politely, "I don't care."
I mean, it's just such a... I mean, it's the type of thing that would hurt my 6-year-old. Do you know what I mean? No one likes you. Well, it's not true. But, like, I'm sorry, what? A grown man being told no one likes you. I'm like, okay. Like, water off a duck's back. Thanks for that. Like, okay. Yeah, you've got a silly name, Declan. Where's your mate, Ant? Like, it's that kind of nonsense. I don't understand that at all.
No.
I mean, Declan Rice did an advert, didn't he, for for Muller Rice, where he actually sings "Rice, Rice, Baby" or something like that. It was. I reckon it was on. It's on one of the radio channels. It's awful, and he's got the arsehole to say that to Hojbjerg. Look here. Shouts "Nobody likes you" in the face of Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg.
Well, that's not even true, though, is it? It's not. Where has he got that from? I know, he's Hojbjerg's a bit like a Marmite character, isn't he, amongst the supporters as well? So it's not wholeheartedly. I thought Hojbjerg played really well.
To his ears.
Yeah.
I got the impression it was to do with players. That players had said that. So anyone who's played with Hojbjerg that now plays with Declan Rice, or maybe Kane has said something on an England trip. I mean, I don't believe this, but that's how I like the idea that that there's this. The brotherhood of all the... Because the Premier League footballers tend to get on well with each other outside the game, right? Like even if they're not, even if they play against each other. And
we saw that, didn't we, last year? Do you remember the backlash for when Kane was playing golf with John Terry? And it was John Terry tweeted the picture, didn't he? And then the fallout that came from that. It's like, they're allowed to have a like.
That's not because John Terry played for Chelsea. That's because John Terry's a cunt. Sorry. That's why. I mean,
I ain't arguing with you,
I don't want to take that back. I probably should, but I mean that's it. Like, do anything with John Terry, you deserve that. Don't care. I mean, I didn't see those golf pictures, but come on now.
Right, let's move on. So, John put this in. We've got two slides or a slide of the league after two positions.
Gibbo's doing it. Thanks, Gibbo.
It's all right. I'm sorry, mate. Are you on the slides? I was just trying to...
No, I haven't, but I can't really see which ones are which.
Yeah, it's the same here, mate. I'll tell you what, I'll take the hit. Is this it? Yes.
There we go. Well done. So as it says there, Spurs have played 24. So in 2021-22, they've played 24 and they've got 42 points. And then this season, they've played 24 and they've got 42 points. But the difference is that they're now fourth. I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday that Liverpool, I think, are our biggest threats for the top four.
Absolutely.
They've obviously got games in hand, isn't it? And they've got players back now. They're playing a bit more confidence. The result against Newcastle.
We've got to go there, haven't we? We got to go to
I'm trying to work out why can't I see West Ham on the second slide? They're on the first one, just under Spurs, but I don't see them over here. What's
Well, also,
happened?
Chelsea are a bit low in the second one as well, aren't they? You could have chopped them off the bottom.
They're just in the picture, Chelsea are at the moment.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe they lost to Southampton. I really can't. I mean, of all the things, that was wonderful.
It was. And and if I watched the Forest game as well, that chance from Haaland in the second half. Oh my God! Crikey, that was. Yeah.
Let's focus on Chelsea being worse and not the other team being better.
Yeah.
But,
so speaking of Chelsea, so we've got Chelsea next week, 1:30. Horrendous kickoff time for me. Me and Jack are gonna have to leave here about 6:00. But Newcastle are obviously in the Carabao Cup with United, so they'll then have 2 games in hand after that game as well.
We've got to play them, haven't we? We've got to go there
in April as well, isn't it? Sky will love that. We've got friends that want to go to that, and I'm like, it's going to be on a Sunday. Sky will pick that up. Hopefully, both teams are still in the shout for the top 4, so that'll be. And then we've got next Wednesday. We've got Sheffield United in the FA Cup away. It's on BBC One, 5 to 8. I'll be there.
Is it really on BBC? It's on BBC.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. 5 to 8. Same kickoff time as it was for the Middlesbrough game last season when we lost 1. I was at that as well.
Thanks, Beck.
Thank you.
And then it's Wolves on the Saturday. Lovely 3:00 kickoff. So we've got all these lovely 3:00 kickoffs in March after Newcastle, after Chelsea. We've got lots of
going to Wolves away.
Yeah, good.
First away game. I'm not going. He's going with some friends.
And then the following Wednesday is the Milan home game, which I'm not at because it's in the week and can't get to for school. But be interesting to see how things kind of play out. On paper, those fixtures are not particularly tricky, but like we said before, beat City, get hammered by Leicester. So Chelsea's not going to be an easy game. We just talked there about West Ham didn't raise their game yesterday. Chelsea will. It's not really straightforward.
It's because it can't get much lower, surely. That's why they'll raise their game.
True. That's true.
That's the test, isn't it? I mean, yesterday was I expect to beat West Ham, that type of West Ham team. I expect to win those games, and it's great that we beat West Ham, and it is brilliant to put them in their place and that it was so comfortable. But there's bigger tests to come, isn't there? Like, no matter how Chelsea are playing poor at the minute, but that will be a much stiffer test, as will AC Milan. That will be a true, West Ham came along just at the right time for us because they were absolute pony, weren't they? So, I don't want to get too carried away with the West Ham result, and then we play Chelsea, and so just trying to keep level-headed.
I mean, I think like everyone's trying to find moments when Porro will play, right?
Yeah.
And like those games that you listed, people will see that Sheffield United game as being, maybe something for him because they're not good. No thanks, not interested. No. Like if Royal is fit, he's playing well, he can play every game. Like maybe the Forest home game, but that's after Milan. I just think that like Porro needs to spend time, training with the players to really get to know a little bit about it before we there's no need to rush him into things. I know we spent a lot of money, but I just feel that if Emerson's playing well, we'd be foolish. Like, yeah, fine. If you can give him 15, 20 minutes at the end of the game because you're ahead, then by all means do that. But those fixtures, we've got a week before Chelsea, so it's really a 2-week period where we play, midweek and then weekends. I'm just worried about the cup game because I feel like once they moved that 5th round to midweek, we've not got past that stage. I think the Norwich game when they knocked out on penalties was the midweek 5th rounder, and then obviously Middlesbrough. So like I know it's Sheffield United who haven't had a great deal of good results recently, but they're still high up in the Championship table. It's not like West Ham at home is an easier game than what I expect Sheffield United to be.
They'll be up for that. They'll be bang up for that, won't they?
Yeah. That's a good point. They should be. Take them a game at a time. And I think Stellini's obviously, he says yesterday, didn't he, that he was texting him or there was a video call or something at half-time with Conte. But, it's it's the recovery time, and that's why we should be sort of thinking about rotating the squad. You know, I was just thinking about Danjuma. Danjuma could have run out yesterday. People were saying in the chat that, why didn't he bring Sarr on for a bit earlier and play Sarr? And we need to make the squad a bit, yeah.
Lucas came on before Danjuma. I was surprised at that.
Me too.
Well, I was probably rather than Danjuma.
The irony being is that, like, it's the attacking players that you should really move out of it, right? Like the fact that Longley went off.
Okay.
I'm just like, why does Perisic need minutes? Why is Davies being moved? Like, you can keep the back five as is. Like, if you're going to change one of them, then sure, you bring Porro in because you want to get him playing with the first team as much as possible. And that would suck for Emerson, but he would have got a massive round of applause yesterday. He'd have absolutely lapped it up.
Yeah.
I just feel like those are the changes that need to be made right now. Like, although we have options for a back five, I feel like the back five that played yesterday is the back five that play quite often. Like, I know that Dier can't play against Milan, but still, there's got to be something in that. So maybe, you said we've got Wolves away before Milan.
Yeah.
Like, that might be a chance to bring Sanchez in, or whoever's going to play for Dier in Milan, because someone's going to have to come in. Then I could see an idea of maybe changing it in the hope of getting that game. But Wolves away is a different game to Milan at home. So it's. Yeah, I guess what Tommy says about one game at a time is always correct, but I just, I want Spurs to win. I don't care who's playing, really. I just want Spurs to win. If we come out of it and we've won the next 5 games playing the same 11 players for 90 minutes, I'm thrilled, right? And if it means that people like Sarr are unhappy, right now, it doesn't matter. Right now, we need results.
Results, yeah, absolutely.
In answer to Dean's question, where's the cat? He's here terrorising a fella. So if I throw this here, he'd go nuts. He's here, and the other one's on the floor. So I've got 3. Right. It says on my run sheet here to plug the pod. Have we got a slide for that? I think I'll maybe get more if you can't find it.
Yeah. Here we do. You put nail Pape. There you go.
I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw Franco on Sunday.
Yeah, I've listened. It's a good pod. I've started. I never got to finish it because the son come in the car and I was talking to him. But good pod as always. So, yeah. So give it a listen if you haven't on all your favourite audio platforms or whatever they say.
We're just laughing at Smalls because he's terrorising the paper airplane now.
They asked to plug Wednesday's show, Becky?
Yeah. It says Wednesday show with Gibbo and Craig on here. What are you going to be talking about, Craig? Matt?
Well, we've decided this week we're going to have a chat about obviously Conte not being here. We're going to talk about possibly what next for Spurs. There's a lot of people out there who don't think he's going to be here next season. So we're just going to have a discussion about where, if that scenario happens, where do we go? Project manager, win now manager, as they call them, or does Stellini get a shot, or what are we going to do if he goes now, or does Mason say? So I think that's what we're going to have a little debate. We'll be, we want the people in the chat to get involved. So we're working on some material for that. I asked HG some questions very early this morning about certain win now managers and that, and what he thought. So I'll be pinching that material off him.
And plus, I think the Wednesday Champions League games, who cares? Right, it's like Inter versus Porto and Man City.
Liverpool,
No one cares about Man City.
Oh.
No, Liverpool's Tuesday night.
Is it?
I think so. Liverpool Real Madrid is tomorrow night, and so is Napoli tomorrow night. So, as far as I'm concerned, the good games are Tuesday, and who cares about Leipzig versus Man City? Really, I can't. Like, no German fans care about Leipzig. No English fans care about Man City. It's kind of like, can they both lose? That would be all right. So yeah, make sure you tune in, because I actually think that's a really important topic. Like, what are Spurs? What are we going to be? What do we want to be? It's a big deal.
What's important?
It is a big deal because if it isn't not a win now manager, it's someone as a project. Then there's an argument of why didn't we do that after Poch? And it feels like the last 4 years was just a waste if they were going to, get these winners and it not happen. So yeah, it's a really, really good question.
But Beck as well, like, is it the manager? They might be win now managers, but is it the club as well? Do you know what I mean? You know these win now managers, but are they any good at clubs that don't necessarily win now?
And are their and including Mourinho and that, are their tactics outdated now? And games move on and
are these win now managers any good at clubs that don't win?
Not naming any names, but clubs that don't win trophies.
You can all make your own minds up who those clubs are.
Right, okay, and then obviously Friday we've got the Chelsea preview show, and then back next week, hopefully after the victory against Chelsea.
Yeah, and
we'll have a show on Monday.
And for Friday's show, we've got a Chelsea fan on. He came on before the game at the Bridge, so he's a decent Chelsea fan, so he'll be coming on to give his opinion on Chelsea and what's going on there. So just try to be nice, don't laugh.
Yeah, it'd be fun. Like we can actually Chelsea are the dysfunctional club for a change.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Maybe they're going to go for Nuno. Spurs reject at Chelsea for a change. That'd be fun.
Switch it around.
I doubt they.
Well, not just as long as that begs the question: Would Poch go there next?
There's a reason I chose Nuno, Becky. There's a reason I chose Nuno.
But yeah, that could be. You can talk about that on Wednesday.
Yeah, tune in on Wednesday. Give us your opinions. Brilliant.
Yeah. Right. Thanks everybody. Thanks everyone in the chat. We may not have put them all up, but I've been reading them definitely, and there's been some really great points in there. It's just been lovely talking about a show. About a match that was like largely quite straightforward, which isn't always the case with Spurs.
Made it easy.
It was, and we went fourth, which was great. And there's been so many times I can remember when we needed to win to go fourth. I can remember it twice happening against Chelsea, and we didn't do it. So that was quite nice that we actually did see that through. And yes, West Ham are 18th, and it may be a different situation on Sunday, but we need to take the positives when we have the positives.
They're rubbish, West Ham. Brilliant.
So excited that might go. So excited. It's been a really good show. Spurs won, and I got to call John Terry names.
Yeah.
What more could anyone want?
Right. If you haven't already done so, please hit the like before you go. But thank you everybody for watching. Hold on a minute. Wait. Need to get the right buttons in the right place. Hold on a second.
Here comes the outro.
And it's left to say it is the outro, very quick. COYS Spurs.
Come on, you